So this little warm up is to get us going for 8.1. And I'll show you the difference between what 8.1 wants and what we did at 3.4, 5, and 6. I actually talked about this last week when we were reviewing. I'm telling you that this stuff is going to be on this up and coming test. Right here. Right, the equation on a line that is blank, parallel or perpendicular to the something x plus something y equals something, and passing through the point. Just like the warm-up. Write the equation of the line described going through the 2 points. Just like the warm-up. This is your quiz on Thursday. You're going to have one question where you got to write the equation of the line that's parallel or perpendicular to another line that goes through a point, and you're going to do a graphing question. Okay? So we want parallel to 8x minus 12y equals 0. And it goes through 18, negative 8. And over here, we want perpendicular to 15x minus 12y equals 0. And it goes through negative 20, negative 2. Step 1, find the slope. Step 1, find the slope. Step 1, find the slope. So I need a slope. So since it's parallel to that line, it's the same slope as this line. So I'm going to use this line's slope. So I got to find the slope of 8x minus 12y equals 0. So my parallel slope equals, now, to get the slope, if I just get y by itself, then the slope is the coefficient of x. On your test, I gave you in that problem, y equals mx plus b. So it was like basically set up for you. You just had to look at the line and pick out the y, the m, sorry, the m. So over here, you have to now do the work yourself. It's not going to just be handed to you. Subtract 8x, subtract 8x. Now, some of you, when you're doing your work, you do this. You subtract an 8. 8x minus 8 does not do a single thing. All you did now was create something weird. You went, this on the left side is now 8x minus 8 minus 12 equals a negative 8. 8x minus 8 does not cancel out the 8x. They're not like terms. You can't combine them together. If you want to take the 8x over to the right side, then you have to undo a positive 8x. That means you got to subtract an 8x from both sides. Details matter. Details matter. And it's these little details that are always going to be biting at your heels. If you can't take care of the details, it's going to be tougher to move on to tougher stuff. Or let's say, when I first started teaching, they said, never say it's hard. Never tell your students that this stuff is hard. Never tell your students this stuff is tough. Never more challenging things. Well, for some of you guys, I know it's hard. That doesn't mean you can't do it. That just means you have to actually pay more attention to what you're doing. When something's really hard, you gotta work out a little bit more, and you gotta really focus on what you're doing. And I am not trying to get on anybody here. Maybe in the front is a better focal point for you. I don't like working in the front. Well, that's okay. I'm not trying to move anybody. You say whatever you want. I gave up on seating charts a long time ago, even in high school. Teachers do seating charts, that's too much work. Let them sit wherever they want, and when they start being jerks, then I'll move them. But they're going to be more comfortable sitting next to the people they want to be sitting to next to. But I want you guys to achieve, but we gotta take care of the little things that don't work for you. The little strategies that you are still implementing, those are the hard things that are going to hold you back. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm on a soapbox right now, but I don't think I've had a chance to say this, especially in this class. If you are a math phobic person, and let's say you have little brothers and sisters or you have kids at home, do not go home and complain about math. I'm not saying it because I want you to feel good about me or this class or anything like that, but I'm talking about for your own kids, for the younger ones around you. When they hear older people, parents, brothers, sisters, saying, oh, I've never been good at math, our family's never, nobody in the family can do math, and blah, 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 and things like that, and I'm not even on camera, so these words of wisdom aren't going to be safe forever. You're now giving them the power and the excuses, because that's what kids do. They want a reason to say, I can't do it either. Nobody in the family is good at it. I don't have to do it. Nobody's good at it. I don't have to do it. You don't have to go home and say you love it. But don't. When you bash things, they learn how to bash things. I don't really dislike the Giants, and I know this is going to come out bad for a lot of. I don't really dislike the San Francisco Giants, but the Giant fans in my family are asses. Why? Because they've grown up just beating down on anybody who likes the Dodgers for whatever reason. They get joy out of it. It's like, I'm your brother, right? So, growing up in that, but it's okay because everybody in the family does it. They learn. If it's math, they're going to learn. If it's history, if it's whatever, if it's this, that, the other thing, they're going to learn from you. They're going to take that cue from you. Again, you don't have to say you love it. You just have to just say, I'm working at it. I'm trying to get better at it. Maybe they can help you. Kids are smarter than you know. Especially if you have high school kids that are taking this stuff along with you. If they help you, they actually will learn it better. One of the counselors that I was working with when I was a teacher at Buchanan High School, I mean, he's in his 40s. I'm teaching night classes at the Clovis Center, back at the Clovis Center when it was on Herndon. Didn't even have a building yet. He enrolled in my Algebra 1 class. Why? Because his son was about to take Algebra 1 the next year. And he wanted to be ready to answer questions when his son had trouble with math. And the next semester, he took a geometry class. So he could answer questions in the geometry before his son, would have questions in geometry. Not everybody has the time to do that. I don't know how a counselor would have the time to do that, but when it's your kids, when it's your family, sometimes those things come up. He said he knew he had to do it because his daughter struggled so much and he didn't know how to help. And he messed up with his daughter. He didn't want to do that with his son. So the daughter was like, he always gets all the stuff. Anyway. So, little details. So on the left, don't mess up, that's a negative 12y equal to a negative 8x. You're trying to solve for y so we can get slope. Divide everybody, in this case, both terms by a negative 12. So now a negative 12 over negative 12 reduces, you have a positive y equals. Simplify, reduce this. A negative over a negative is a positive. I'm going to go to the left or the right over here. This is 4 times 2 over 4 times 3x. This 8 over 12, negative 8 over negative 12 reduces to 2/3 x. That's the equation of that line in slope-intercept form. Solve for y. So now, the slope of this line is 2/3. Come on, make it equal. So therefore, my parallel line has exactly the same slope, 2/3. So now what I need to do is make my own line equation. I know the slope, and it's not a special case because it's not 0, it's not undefined. That's step 2. Is it a special case? Nope. Step 3, since it's not a special case, I'm going to write down what I'm supposed to be figuring out. I want to write down y equals mx plus b. The pieces of the puzzle that I got to fill in are the m and the b. I got to figure those out. All I know right now is m. So I'm going to plug in 2/3. That's step 4. Plug in the slope, 2/3. And then times x plus b. So the last piece of the puzzle is I got to figure out b. To figure out this line's y-intercept, you plug something in for x and y. Well, the only point that is on the line that is being described is 18, -8. This is the only point I have to work with. So that means, and a lot of you did this right, you did this absolutely correct, but you didn't put a plus b, so you didn't have anything here to solve for. And that was the missing piece. We're going to let the x equal an 18, and the y is a -8. Same promise as chapter 3. I'm never going to give you in this semester any ordered pairs and slopes and equations of lines where after you substitute, it's going to come out messy. You're going to come out with a fraction. It will simplify and be a nice number. Y is a -8 equals 2/3. X is now an 18. And then I still have to figure out the b. And what I mean by this is what I've seen in the past. You're supposed to let x equal to 18 and y equal to -8. Well, I have seen students just being going through it too quickly. They accidentally put the x where the y is. So they put the 18 here equals 2/3 and they put the negative 8 where the x is, negative 8 here, plus b. Well, if you're doing this correctly, then I should get 18 equals 2/3. 3 should go into 8 evenly because Esquivel said he's not going to give us numbers that don't reduce nicely. And 3 does not go into 8. So there's a problem here. And if you can't figure what you did wrong, go up and ask. Now, I can't tell you exactly what's wrong, but I might be able to guide you to what you did wrong. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to give you an ordered pair where that y will always not reduce. Maybe it might. So you really got to be careful when you make the substitution. But if you get something that doesn't reduce, 3 does not go into 8. This would be a fraction here. That's not going to happen to you. I promise I'm not going to do that to you. So if that happens, you got to say, okay, I did something wrong, I'll come up and ask. Question? And that's, so I was pointing out that sometimes students make this mistake. And that, so if you make this mistake right away, I know I made a mistake because Esquivel said this would never happen. I will always get something nice where he does. I'm saying, don't do this. Yeah. And I know that's something that also bites me because when I say don't do this, it's like, oh, do that. It's like, don't touch the stove. Don't touch it again. Because we do things we're not supposed to. Don't do drugs. Negative 8. 3 goes into 18. 6 times 2 times 6, 12 plus b. To solve for b, undo a positive 12, subtract 12 from both sides. Negative 8 minus 12 is negative 20 is the b. So the equation of the line that I needed to find, this b is a negative 20. So the equation of my line is y equals 2/3 x, and then plus negative 20, so minus 20. Now here is the twist. Here is the change. In chapter 3, write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. And 8.1 on your quiz. Here's the warm-up. Smaller. Well, let me just show you on the test. Right here on the test. Right there. That's not it. Here we go. There, okay. So here's the directions on the test. Here's the directions on your quiz on Thursday. Write the equation of the line. Okay, I know how to do that. Why would I speak? No. Write the equation of the line described using function notation. F of x equals mx plus b. If possible. If possible. If function notation is not possible, use the appropriate special case notation. So instead of y equals mx plus b, we want function notation. We want f of x equals mx plus b. So this is how tough it's going to be. Do everything that you've been doing all along. Your final answer, replace the y with f of x minus 20. Write it using function notation instead of y equals f of x equals. That's it. Because that's what they're interchangeable. Y and the function notation are interchangeable. That's all you gotta do. Now, if possible, so you're replacing y with f of x. So y equals mx plus b. Make sure I can here. This would now be replaced with f of x equals mx plus b. And then you have two special cases. And the directions. If function notation is not possible, use the appropriate special case notation. Well, the two special cases, horizontal lines, vertical lines. Horizontal, y is always the same number. Y is a constant. So if it's horizontal, y is equal to a constant. All you have to do is replace y with a function notation. So there's a y, I get to replace it with f of x is equal to whatever that constant is. That's it. If it's horizontal, it's a function notation. I can do that. That's a special case, but I can still change y to f of x. The vertical, though, now we got trouble. If it's a vertical line, then you have x equals a constant. Well, function notation only replaces y equals y. X equals a constant has no y to replace. This cannot be written using function notation because there's no place to put f of x because there is no y. Remember, vertical lines cannot be functions because when you do have a vertical line, like x equals 4, I have x equals a 4. That means x is always a 4. If y is up here, the x will be 4, 10. And then right here, that might be 4, 4. Down here, this might be 4, -3. And then you make your vertical line. In order to be a function, the x's cannot repeat. On a vertical line, all of the x's repeat. The x's are always 4. Vertical lines can't be functions. So on the vertical line, that's the only one you cannot write as a function. So how do you make the equation? Whatever x equals. Use the appropriate special case notation. Okay. So for the second one, we want perpendicular to this line, so I need the perpendicular slope. If the lines are perpendicular, the slopes are opposite and reciprocal. Perpendicular lines, the slopes are opposite and reciprocal. So this 15x minus 12y equals 0. I'm going to figure out this slope, and then over here, I'm going to change the sign and flip it for the perpendicular. It's kind of like the symbol for perpendicular looks like a T. Now, they go in opposite directions. One's going left, right, one's going up and down, opposite directions. And it looks like a T that's been flipped. So opposite and reciprocal. So we want to get y by itself. subtract 15x. You have a negative 12y. On this side, you have a negative 15x. And then you divide by negative 12. And again, simplify. So your positive y equals negative over negative is a positive. The common factor is a 3. This is 3 times 5. This is 3 times 4, x. So this line is 5 over 4 times x. So the slope of this line over here is 5 over 4. So my perpendicular slope is what? Negative, opposite, and reciprocal. So negative 4 over 5. Negative 4 over 5. Change the sign. That's what opposite means. So I get positive. My sign over here for perpendicular will be negative. And reciprocal. And you're going to flip it. Not a special case because it's not 0. It's not undefined. So I'm going to set up my y equals mx plus b. And then I'm going to substitute in my slope, just the slope. So y equals negative 4 over 5 times x. And now I just have to figure out the b. To figure out b, we plug in an x and y. The only x and y I have to work with is that one. So the negative 20, negative 2. Watch out for those signs. That's the sign. Triangle that x equals negative 20. And your y is a negative 2. So when we plug it in, we get negative 2 for the y equals negative, don't forget the negative, 4 over 5 times x is negative 20, and then plus b. Before you start doing anything, simplify the fraction times the number. Negative 2 equals negative times a negative is going to be a positive. 5 goes into 20 4 times. So that's negative 4 times negative 4. I get positive 16 plus b. So to solve for the y-intercept, to solve for b, subtract 16. Negative 2 minus 16 is negative 18. So my perpendicular line has a y-intercept of negative 18. So now we stick it. The equation of the line, y equals negative 4 over 5x minus an 18. And that would be great if this was chapter 3. 8.1, we want the answer written using function notation. Now, that might mean f of x, if that's what the directions say. Functions can have many names. So don't discount. So on this warm-up I'm going to post in with you today. The second question is the one right there. It says, write the equation of the line described using function notation. G of x equals mx plus b. So instead of replacing the y with f of x, the directions tell you to use g instead of f. So all that means to us is my final answer is I'm going to replace this y with g of x equals negative 4/5 x minus 18. Because I just got to follow whatever the directions tell me. Could be, hey, let's call this answer h of x. T of X. Okay, Q of X. Never know. Happy face of X. You could name a function whatever you want to name it. And if the directions say call it happy face of X at the end, replace Y with happy face of X. Now, I know we didn't take a break, but I was passing out those tests left and right. So I'm just going to keep on going till 10:35 and let you guys go 10 minutes. Okay. And by the way, I am kind of hitting everything that's in 8.1. This is a warm up, but it's also 8.1. Now, when I gave you the preview of the test, and I put up the test up there were two problems where you had to write the equation of the line using function notation. Oh. Two of them. One, parallel perpendicular, and we just did an example. Parallel or perpendicular. Another one, through the points, through the 2 points, which is this example. I got 2 points. Step one, find the slope. Step one, you can write the equation, find the slope. Can't do anything unless you got slope. Slope. Slope is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So I'm going to plug in. You want me to use the first -1 or the second -1? So if I start with this ordered pair, -1, this y, -1, and then you're going to subtract. Minus this y is a -1, so parentheses -1. So the first y or the second y minus the first y. That means in the denominator, I got to start with the second x, 5. And I'm going to subtract the first x, which is a -2, parentheses, -2. Now, a lot of you don't take the time to use parentheses, and you still get it right. I'm okay with that. But some of you who make mistakes, you're not taking the time to rewrite it by simplifying consecutive negatives. This is now -1 plus 1, and this is now 5 plus 2. So we get a slope. -1 plus 1 is 0. 5 plus 2 is 7. And here's the deal. In the past, I've had students actually use 0/7 as they try to work out the equation. What word have I said a billion times since the beginning of the semester that I'm about to say right now? What? Nope. Simplify. Which would come before if it was undefined. Simplify. You gotta make sure you know the difference. 0 in the numerator divided by a number. 0 in the numerator, the answer is 0. You can divide into 0, but a number over 0, you cannot have 0 in the denominator. A number over 0, that's where you get undefined. The only way to get 0 in the denominator is because when you subtract the x's, they would have to be the same x, 5 minus 5, -2 minus -2. That's the only way to get 0 here. If the x's are the same, it's vertical, and vertical lines have an undefined slope. When you get 0 in the numerator, That's because the y's that you're subtracting, are the same two y. And look, that's a -1, that's a -1. If I subtract the same thing from the other thing, they cancel each other out. I better get 0. And if the y's are the same, that's horizontal. So when you see that the slope is 0, you know it's a special case. It's a horizontal line. When the slope is 0, which means it's just y equals a constant. So in this problem, what does the y equal? The y's are both -1s. So the equation of the line is just y equals -1. It's a special case. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. Okay? That's all you have to do. Even if you did try to go y equals mx plus b, you'd still end up with b equal to 0. Sorry, you'd actually end up with b equals -1. But your slope is 0. 0 times x means x is gone. You end up with just y equals -1. If this question said, write the equation using function notation, we want h of x equals mx plus b as your final answer, well, you would replace y with h of x instead. So this would now be h of x is -1. It's a horrible thing. Whatever the direction, whatever function name they want you to use, that's what you use. Okay. On this warm-up, what I'm going to post, you have to graph the equation of the linear function. So on your quiz Thursday, you have one problem, you got to graph the linear function. You have another one, you got to be parallel or perpendicular to give them up. Here, we got to graph this linear function. Now remember, function notation just replaces a y. This is exactly the same. F of x equals -1/3 x. Exactly the same as y equals -1/3 x. So whenever you have function notation, you automatically have y equals mx plus b, because if this is function notation, you automatically have y by itself every single time. So you automatically have mx plus b on the other side. Slope is the coefficient of the x variable. So there's something here times the x. So this is my slope. -1/3. The y-intercept, b, comes after the x variable. Right here, there is nothing after that x variable. Therefore, what number represents the nothing? 0. You have to have a y-intercept. You have to have some place you're going to start. So the number that is missing, the only thing that could have been there, would have been a plus a 0. So that means your y-intercept is at 0. It goes to the origin. You don't have to label the origin. Okay? Because it's too messy to label the origin. Now we just do the slope. When I have a -1/3 like this, Remember my preference, I prefer to put the negative in my numerator over +3 in the denominator. Because from that y-intercept, from that origin, I'm going to use the slope to get from that first point to the next point. The slope is directions, rise over run, rise over run. So whenever I have a negative slope, I put my negative in the numerator. So that means if I have a positive slope, like +2/3, it's +2, +3. I'm going to go up 2 and right 3. But when I have a -2/3, I prefer to put the negative in the numerator. That way I know I'm going to go down first, down 2, and then right 3. So either way, it's either going to go up or it's going to go down. My first move is either up or down, but my second move is always to the right. Whether it's a positive slope or negative slope, my second move is always to the right. The first move is either up when it's positive, down if it's negative. The second move, I'm always going to the right. So this means I'm going to go down 1. So from here, I go down 1. And the run, I go 3 to the right. Down 1, over 3. Now you've got to label that point. You've got to label the coordinates. When you have a line, at least 2 points. At least 2 means you could have more, but you need at least 2. The coordinates of that point, the ordered pair, the location. X is +3, the y is a -1. And that's where, again, people will get a little mixed up. You went down 1 and right 3, so they put -1 first and then 3, because you went down 1 and then right 3. So since you went down 1 first, they put the -1 first. -1, 3 is over here. That's the ordered pair where X is -1, Y is 3. Remember, ordered pair, the X is always before the Y. So when you label it, it's got to be X and Y. And remember, that's just not the only point on the line. There's an infinite number of points on this line. We just found the next convenient. So you take the straight edge, you're going to graph this. Don't forget your arrows. So look, from every point to the next one, I go down 1 and to the right 3. It's on the line. That ordered pair, X is a 6, the Y is a -2. If I put X is equal to 6, -1/3 of 6 is -2. This is exactly the same answer. -1 over 3 is exactly the same as +1 over -3. I don't choose to do this, but it works. That means up 1 and left 3. Up 1 and left 3 puts me here, where X is at -3, Y is at +1. -1/3 times X is -3. -1/3 times -3 equals +1. If I go up 1 more and then left 3 again, then that point right there is at -6, +2. And those are just the nice answers that are on the line. I just need to see 2. And so on Thursday, you're going to do a graphing, and you're going to do a parallel perpendicular. And again, I will put the warm up with the YouTube announcement or posting. And the first thing we're going to do on Thursday is that warm up. We're going to go right into it. And the quiz is just like it. So you get to use the warm up when you get to the quiz. All right, let's take a look at L homework. Some of you need to, you signed up with the temporary and then you did most of the homework, but then you let it lapse for the end, because I think it was the due date, but then, so you need to make it homework. So when the first homework 8.1 is only 12 problems. And we're graphing. This chapter has a whole bunch of graphing. And when we learn how to graph, the first thing we do is plot some points and we see what it looks like. And then we realize, hey, it's always going to look like this. So then we learn how to read the equation and not have to plot points. So negative 8x, f of x is negative 8x. So remember, that's the same as y equals negative 8x. So when you have function notation, you automatically have y by itself. So you automatically have y equals mx plus b. So when you got to get the pieces that you need. My slope is negative 8. And then what's the plus b that you don't see here? 0. It goes to the origin. My slope, though, I need rise over run. How can I convert negative 8 into a fraction? Negative 8 over a positive 1. I need to know up or what, and then left and right. I need rise and run. So if it's an actual whole integer, whole number, it can make it over 1. So that means I'm going to go down 8 and to the right 1. So that's going to put me at x is equal to, right here, the ordered pair. That's going to be 1, negative 8 on the y-axis. So that's what you would label. Take the line there. Of course, I don't have my glasses on. Okay, line 1. Save it and check it. Yes. And then here, question 2, f of x is 1/2 x. So y equals 1/2 x. Again, y-intercept is 0, slope is 1/2. Give an example, just like we just did there. Okay. All right. The suspense. If only the real world worked this way. Use function notation. Now here's the deal. They already put f of x here for you. But we're going to pretend we're going to do it ourselves. Use function notation to write the equation line with the given slope. So they tell us the slope is equal to 9. And the y-intercept. They're telling us that this, okay, fraction, no, but they're telling us that this is the y-intercept. What they're telling you is that b is negative 3 over 4. They are handing it to you. Now, they're not going m is and b is. They're telling you it's 0, negative 3 over 4. But you got to remember, when you have x equal to 0, when x is 0, it's on the y-axis. And if it's on the y-axis, then you have the y-intercept automatically. And the two things you need to make the equation of a line is m and b. Those are the two things you got to find. So they gave you m, 9 times x, and they gave us b. This is 9, and this is negative 3 over 4, so equal minus 3 over 4. That's it. Well, that's not it. They want it using function notation. So they want it with f of x instead of y. Now, because they already typed that in, all you're going to do is type in the answer. 9x minus 3/4. They handed you B. You have everything you need. Same thing on question 4. Function notation. Equation of a line with the given slope and the y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept will be a 0. So y equals mx plus b. Slope is 3/7. Plus b. The b here on the y-intercept is a 0. Now again, you always simplify. I would take off a point if you put this as your answer. What is 3/7 x plus 0? It's just y equals 3/7 x. You don't put, if you're going to simplify, the answer is not 5 plus 0. 5 plus 0 is 0. And it's the same thing. No, it's not simplified. 5 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 0 is 5. You don't put 5 plus 0, put the final answer. Final answer is. So f of x, now big, of course, this is multiple choice on this one. So if we're doing choices, process of elimination, anytime you take a multiple choice anything, look at all of the answers. Maybe you can make the problem easier without actually doing the problem. Function notation. They want the answer function notation. Look at B, look at C. Do you see an f of x in either B or C? So that's not, none of those are using function notation. It can't be B, can't be C. Nope, no. So my only two possibilities are A and B. Now they tell me the slope is positive 3/7. Well, why would I have a negative 3/7 in the first place? Right? So that's one way to eliminate B. The second thing, it's a slope, so that would be your m times x. This doesn't even have an x. So if this was positive, but no x, at least you still know this doesn't have an x, and they say slope is 3/7, it would be 3/7 x. That's how. That's one possibility. Give yourself some credit. You guys are smarter than you think. Process of elimination works. Equation of a line with the given slope going to this point. This was like, I believe, the fourth question. No, sorry, not the fourth question. The seventh question on the test. Gave you a slope and I gave you a point. Step 1, find the slope. There it is. My slope is -6. Special case, nope. So we're going to write down y equals mx plus b. We plug in the slope. Y equals -6x. And then still got to figure out b. To figure out b, we're going to plug in an x and y. The only x and y we have to work with is this 4, 5. So we're going to let the x equal 4 and the y is a 5. 5 equals -6. I have to get that negative. Times x is 4. And we're solving for b. So 5 equals -6 times 4 is -24 plus b. And then to get b by itself, you add 24 to both sides. 5 plus 24 is 29. That's the y-intercept that we need to find. So y equals negative 6x plus 29. They want function notation. They want f of x. So now you just replace this y with f of x equals negative 6x plus 29. Okay. Yeah, that one. So same thing on number 6, point and a slope. And then this one, they give you 2 points, so it's just like the warm-up that we did. Find the slope first. Find the slope first. Now, question 9. Equation line, function notation. Slope is 0. Step 1, find the slope. It's 0. Step 2, is it a special case? Hey, if the slope is 0 or undefined, you have a special case. What kind of line has a 0 slope? Vertical or horizontal? Can't spell horizontal without O's. O is 0. So when the slope is 0, you're talking about a horizontal line. If it's horizontal, it's y equal to a constant. So what does the y equal in this ordered pair? -1. And then you just replace it with f of x equals -1. That's a homework. Okay. I've already taken roll because whoever didn't get a grade sheet, they're not here. So I will see you on Thursday, and again, make sure you look for that warm-up that I've posted today to get ready for the quiz on Thursday. Okay? Okay, Callie, I'm going to end the session, okay? Bye, you too.